Good evening, students. In this video, what we are going to see is module 3. In the last video, we have completed up to module 2, that is last topic, jump statements. And in this video, what we are going to see is functions. That is module 3. Okay. And under this functions, the topics covered are, under this functions, the topics covered are, I think you are able to see the screen, PPT slideshow, right? Okay. So under this functions, the topics to be covered are function declaration, function definition, function calling, function parameters, return types, call by value, call by reference, recursive function, scope, and lifetime of variables, header files, and modular programming, right? As I told you before, for first internal examination, the portion in C programming is first 3 modules. Okay. I have told before 3.5 units, but now it is decided to cover only up to third unit. Sorry, third module. Okay, up to functions. And under this functions, actually, first 3 modules are to be covered for first internal, but it is enough to study up to only recursive functions. Okay, ma. So I'm going to cover only up to recursive functions, and the questions will also be taken only from these topics. That is from function declaration to recursive functions in the third module. Okay. In addition to these topics, module 1 and 2 will also be considered for internal one. Okay. So in the third module, we are going to study only up to recursive functions. So let us see introduction first. Okay. Introduction to functions. If you take a C program, it can be divided into a number of segments, and each and every segment is known as a function. Okay. And this each function is actually written to perform a particular task. Okay. And the corresponding program segment can also be called as a module. Therefore, a C program can be divided into a number of program segments, that is functions. And each and every function is actually to perform a particular task. Okay, say for example, addition or subtraction or any other computation or task to be accomplished. Okay, what can be performed with the help of the function. As discussed before, main is a specially recognized function in C. If you take a C program, each and every C program must have a main function, and generally the execution of C program starts from the definition of main function alone. Okay, and not only the main function, in addition to this, we can also have some other user defined functions in C program that we are going to see in this unit. Okay, so in C programs, subprograms are referred to as functions. Subprograms are nothing but the last section in the basic structure of a C program. We have already seen, and these subprograms are nothing but the user defined functions. Therefore, in addition to main function, we can also have user defined functions in C program in order to perform a particular task or computation. Okay. And look at this figure. Here we have 2 functions. The first one is main function, default function in a C program. And the second one is function 1. Okay, name of the function is function 1 here. So this is main function definition, and this is what function 1 definition, right? And inside this main function, actually, these 2 functions are written in the same C program itself. Therefore, in this particular C program, we have 2 functions. One is main and another one is function 1. And inside this main function, it calls function 1. And this is what function call statement that we will see in detail later. Okay. And whenever a C compiler executes this function call statement, the program control is automatically transferred to the definition part or statement block of the corresponding function. Okay. And once this function 1 is executed, next the program control returns back to the next statement, which is immediately following the function call statement in the main function. Okay, so only after executing the body of or definition of function 1, it returns back to continue the execution of main function. And in such case, main function is said to be calling function and function 1 is said to be called function, because function 1 is called by main function and main function calls function 1. Okay, so main function is known as calling function and function 1 is known as called function. And whatever I have explained in the previous slide are given as points here. Okay, look at the last 2 points. It is not necessary that main of function could call only one function and for only one time. That is, it is not necessary or mandatory that the main function should have, that is, should call only one function or should call only one function for only one time. Okay, so the main function is able to call as many functions as it wants. Similarly, it could able to call many functions for many times, that is as many times as it requires. Okay, அப்ப எத்தனை டைம் வேணும்னாலும் கால் பண்ணிக்கலாம், எத்தனை ஃபங்க்ஷன்ஸ்னாலும் it may call. Okay, it is the concept of functions in C programming language. In order to understand the last 2 points, look at this figure. Here also we have 2 functions, main and function 1. In the previous figure, this particular main function called function 1 for only one time, right? But in this figure, the main function calls the same function, function 1, for 2 times. This is what first function call statement, and this is what second function call statement, right? So whenever this function call statement is encountered by a C compiler, it automatically goes to execute the function body of function 1. Okay, and only after executing the definition of function 1, it returns back to continue the execution of main function. And again here the same function is called one more time. And in such case also, in this point also, the program control transferred to execute the definition part of function 1. And only after executing this particular part, the program control returns to the execution of main function. Okay, so this is what the concept of functions in C programming. So ஒரு main functionல எத்தனை functionsனாலும் கால் பண்ணலாம் and எத்தனை timesனாலும் கால் பண்ணலாம். ஓகேவா? So அதுதான் வந்து concept. And next one, similarly, not only the main function, but also other user defined functions can call other functions. That is, if you are having multiple user defined functions in addition to main function in a C program, then the main function is able to, just like the main function is able to call the other user defined functions, in the same way, some other user defined functions may call the other user defined functions in the C program. Okay, in order to understand this particular concept, look at this figure. Here we have totally 4 functions in addition to main. Okay, first one is main function, and next one is function 1, function 2, function 3. And here main function calls function 1. Inside this function 1, it calls function 2. And inside this function 2, it calls function 3. And inside this function, it doesn't call any other functions. Okay, so in such case, first the program control, that is the C compiler, completes the execution of function 3. Okay, only after completing the execution of function 3, it returns back to execution of function 2, and only after completing the execution of function 2, it returns back to function 1, and after executing this particular portion, it returns back to main function. Okay, so only in the final stage, it completes the execution of main function. So in this figure or in this concept, the main function calls user defined function 1, in which In turn, function 1 calls function 2. In turn, function 2 calls function 3. Okay. So not only the main function, other user-defined functions may also able to call some other user-defined functions in the same C program itself. Okay. And this concept is known as modular programming. Modular programming in the sense, a particular C program is divided into number of modules. Each and every module is also known as program unit or function, right? And in this modular programming, we can have two types. The first one is top-down modular programming, and the second one is bottom-up modular programming. Let us see what is top-down modular programming. Look at this figure. Here we have main function, and inside this main function, it calls three functions: function A, function B, function C. And inside the function B, it calls two other functions, function B1 and function B2. So this is what top-down modular programming. First, main function calls three functions, and inside this function B, it calls two functions, B1, B2. So it is just looking like a hierarchical structure, right? So this is what top-down modular programming. In the similar way, we can also have bottom-up modular programming. Okay, so modular programming is nothing but a C program is divided into number of modules, and each and every module is known as a function or a program unit or a program segment. Okay, which is mainly used to do a particular task, and each and every module can be called by some other modules in the C program. Okay. Next one, in order to make use of a user-defined function, that is, if you want to apply or use the user-defined function in a C program, then we have to establish three elements. The first one is function definition, also known as function implementation, and the second one is function call, and the third one is function declaration. Let us see one by one in detail. The first one is function declaration or function prototype. Okay, so function declaration is also known as function prototype. Before entering into the syntax of function declaration, first of all, we should know whatever things we have to remember or follow while we are using functions in a C program. Okay, so the first point is a function F calls another function G. Therefore, here F is known as calling function and G is known as called function. We have already seen these two terms, right? And next one is the inputs that a particular function takes are known as arguments or parameters. That is, each and every user-defined function in a C program is able to collect input data. Okay, so all those input data collected by a particular user-defined function is known as argument or parameters. When a function called when a called function returns some result back to the calling function, it is said to be return that result. Okay, that is in the previous example, main function called function 1, right? And in such case, main function is known as calling function and function 1 is known as called function. So after executing the function 1, it returns some value to the calling function, that is to main function. Okay, and that is known as return. Okay, and next one, the calling function may or may not pass parameters to called functions. As I said before, each and every user-defined function is able to collect input data from the user. Okay, that is arguments or parameters. So, yeah, the calling function in the sense, in our example, main function. Okay, so main function may or may not pass parameters to the called function. So when it calls a particular user-defined function, it may or may not pass any arguments to the corresponding functions. Just as the input data, okay, on which the function is going to be operated. But it is not compulsory that it should pass parameters. Pass பண்ணலாம் பண்ணாமலும் இருக்கலாம். Okay, ma'am. Next one, function declaration. Function declaration is a declaration statement. Just like how do we declare a variable before using that variable, we have to declare the function before defining or calling that function. Okay, that is what function declaration. So function declaration statement identifies a function with its name. This declaration part will be having function name of the function, a list of arguments or parameters that it accepts, and the type of data it returns. Okay, so we have already seen that the call to function will return may or may not return the result to the calling function. Okay, so if it returns a result to the calling function, then we have to specify or mention the type of data it returns. Suppose it is going to return any integer value, in the sense the data type of the function to be declared is int. Okay, likewise, we can use some other data types also. So function declaration part will be having name of the function, list of arguments, and type of data. Next one, function definition. Before defining the function, first of all, we should have declared the corresponding function in the use program, C program. Okay, so function definition will be having these parts. Function header that identifies the function, followed by the body of the function containing executable statements. Okay, so this function declaration statement must end with a semicolon, but this function definition part should not end with a semicolon. Okay, and inside this definition, we will be giving some executable statements or statement block to be executed whenever we call that particular statement. And one more term is function call. Function call is nothing but we are just trying to invoke that particular function, which was already defined in a C program. Okay, and any particular user defined program can be called or invoked just by using the function name. Okay, that we have already seen in the last two figures. Okay, inside the main function one of semicolon was given. That is what function call statement. Okay, so just like the function declaration, function call statement also ends with a semicolon. Okay. Next one, function declaration or function prototype. Here, it is what general format or syntax of function declaration. The first one is return data type. As I said before, if the particular function is going to return any value to the calling function, then we have to specify the return data type. Okay, if it is not in the sense, we can just specify this data type as void. Okay, so this one is return data type, and next one is function name, and within parentheses we can specify a number of arguments or parameters to be taken by this function. And whenever we give a number of or list of parameters arguments, we have to specify along with the data type, just like variable declaration. Data type, and next one is name of the argument. First argument, comma, data type, second argument, comma, third data type and third argument. Likewise, it will be going. Okay. So here function name is a valid name for the function. That is just like how do we provide a particular name for a variable. In the similar way, we can also provide a name for a function, and the name to be provided for a particular function should be a meaningful. Okay, because just by looking at the function name, we can, that is just by looking at the function name, we should be able to differentiate the different user-defined functions used in a C program. Okay, suppose you are going to perform the two operations, addition and subtraction in a C program, and you are going to have two separate functions in order to perform the task. Okay, first one is to addition and second one is to subtraction, right? So in such case, we can just provide the name, function name as add of, and another one is sub of. Okay, so if you look at that function, you can easily come to know that add of function is used to perform addition operation, and sub of function is used to perform subtraction operation. Okay, so in order to differentiate, or in order to what to say, in order to understand what the corresponding function actually does, we have to provide a meaningful name for a particular function. Okay, so the function name is used to call it for execution. Adhu already paathom. How do we call a particular function? Just by using the name of the function. Okay, and return data type specifies the data type of the value that it returns. Suppose it is going to return an integer data value, in the sense the return data type is integer, int. Okay, and if it is going to return any floating point value, in the sense float. Okay, so whatever data type you are going to apply or you want to use, you can just give the corresponding return data type here. And next one, data type, variable 1, variable 2. This is nothing but a list of variables, that is arguments or parameters, and it is given along with the data type. And they are also known as arguments or parameters. That's already நம்ம பார்த்தோம். Okay, so whatever values a particular function is going to accept are known as arguments or parameters. And these are some valid function declarations given in your textbook. I have also that is uploaded the textbook soft copy in your Canvas. Okay, so refer that. In that textbook, this valid functions are, some of the valid function declarations are given. Okay, so let me explain the first one alone, and you try to understand the remaining. Okay, by your own. The first one is return type, char. Here char is given, return data type is char, and the function name is convert to uppercase. Okay, so if you look at this function name, you can easily know that this particular function is going to perform the conversion, that is from lowercase to uppercase, right? So likewise, we have to provide the meaningful name for a particular function. Okay, so char, convert to uppercase, char semicolon, and this is what function declaration. As I said before, function declaration as well as function call statement must end with a semicolon. Okay, so char, convert to uppercase, char ch. Likewise, these are some other valid function declarations. Okay, and here this particular function takes only one argument or parameter, that is also of type character, and the argument name is ch. Okay, next one, function declaration or function prototype. And here we are going to see that is we have to remember some points while we are declaring a particular function. Okay, so each and every function declaration statement must end with a semicolon, and the function declaration statement is actually given as a global declaration. Okay, global declaration in the sense the corresponding function declaration statement should be given outside all the functions used in a C program, outside of all other functions used in that particular C program. Then only we will be able to call the corresponding function inside any particular function or anywhere in the program. Okay, if you have declared a function as a local function, in the sense you will not be able to call the corresponding function inside any other function of the C program or anywhere in the C program. Okay, so it should be given as a global declaration, so it can be called from anywhere in the program. Use of argument names in function declaration is optional, that is, it is not mandatory that you should give a list of arguments or parameters while you are declaring a function. Okay, it is an optional one. If you want, you can just give list of parameters along with the data type and the name of the argument, or else you can skip. Okay, here two examples are given. Look at the first one, int function of int comma char comma float. Here first int represents return data type, that is data type of the function, and function name is func, and inside this parenthesis we have given three arguments, that is parameters, and here the name of the parameters are not given, only the data type of the parameters are given. The first one is of integer type, and the second one is of character, and the third one is of float. Okay, so this is what one type of function declaration. Similarly, look at the second one, int function int num comma char ch comma float f num. it is partially similar to the previous one. That is, in the previous case, we did not specify any name of the argument, but here we have given the list of arguments along with the data type and also the name of the argument. Okay, so integer num. Here argument 1 name is num, argument 2 name is ch, argument 3 name is f num. Okay, so a function cannot be declared within the body of another function. This is the most important point to remember. Inside the definition or body of any other function, we should not declare, or any particular function should not be declared within the body of any other function in a C program. Next one is a function having void as its return type cannot return any value. Okay. So if you are going to use void as return data type, then it doesn't return any particular value. Okay. So a function having void as its parameter list cannot accept any value. That is, if you just look at this example. The first one is void print of void, and the second one is void print of. So these two statements, declaration statements, are equivalent. Okay, in these two statements, function declaration statements, we have used void as return data type, void, and here also void. Okay, and here function name is print, and here also function name is print. But here inside this parenthesis, we have given void. This is nothing but one of the data types. Okay, and this void indicates that the function print is not going to return any value at the end of its execution, right? Similarly, here we did not give or mention any data type within this parenthesis, right? And it is also same as the previous one. And this empty parenthesis indicates that the function print is not going to return any value to the calling function, okay, in which it is called. Okay, so both are equivalent. And next one, if the function declaration doesn't specify any return type, then the function by default, the function returns an integer value. Suppose you did not give any return data type for a particular function, then it automatically considers integer as its return data type. Okay, say for example, sum of int a comma int b. Here we have given only the name of the function, data type and argument list, at the end semicolon. We did not specify or mention or give any return data type, right? So in such case, the C compiler automatically takes or considers the integer data type as the data type of this sum function. Okay, that's all about function declaration or function prototype. In next video, we will see function definition and also the function call. Okay, thank you.